Using Word effectively. Word 04 Selection Techniques.
In this session, we're going to look at selection techniques. Selecting is sometimes referred to as highlighting. When you want to change the format of something or you want to delete something, you have to highlight or select it first. There are a lot of myths about selecting data, and people faff around with their mouse and find themselves yo-yoing up and down the screen when they want to select data, but there are much more controlled ways of selecting. Let me just give you a few examples. If you want to format a single word, let's say I want to make the word quick here bold, you don't need to select it. You can click in the middle of it and you can click on bold. You could make it red, you could do whatever you want to it just by having your your insertion point in the middle of that word. If you wanted to pick up more than one word, so if I wanted quick and brown to be a different format here, to select, you don't need to get your mouse at the beginning of the Q and select all the way to the end of the N. If you are anywhere on the first word, providing you go more than halfway across the second word, Microsoft Word automatically selects the full words. So it makes it nice and easy to be able to make that bold and make it red. Okay, for example. If you want to delete a word, so if I wanted to delete the word quick from this sentence, you do need to select it first, and the quickest way of doing that is to double click in the middle of it. By double clicking, it will also select the space, and when you press the delete key, it deletes it nice and cleanly for you. If you want to pick up a paragraph, then you should use the left-hand margin, which is also known as the selection bar. Now, when the left-hand margin is nice and big, as it is here, it's very obvious that your mouse symbol changes as you're moving to the left from an insertion point to a pointer. When it's a pointer, it will automatically pick up an entire line. So if I wanted to reformat the heading, I again need to be out in the margin, but click out to the left, even though it's centered, because it's centered, you need to be out at the left-hand side. Okay, so anywhere in the margin is your selection bar. You might have a minute margin. You don't need to worry about that. An example of that is if we were in draft mode. It's going to look slightly odd, but it's going to be a bit like an email, for example. But it's still this left-hand area that you can still click in to pick up an entire line. But generally speaking, you've got a nice big margin to get in there. So a line is a single click. Paragraph is a double click. By double clicking in that selection bar, you'll get the entire paragraph. Remember, as far as Word is concerned, a paragraph is anything that ends with a paragraph mark. So on a single line, a click or a double click is going to be exactly the same there. That's a single click. That's a double click. It's the entire paragraph. Okay. There is one further click that you can do in the selection bar, which is a triple click, which will pick up the entire document. So that's selected everything within the entire document. To come off your selection, just click somewhere so that you get your insertion point back in play. Okay, if you want to pick up more than one paragraph, the best way of doing that is to come out to the left-hand margin, again, the selection bar, and click and drag down in a controlled way, hopefully. This is when there's a risk of yo-yoing, all right, especially when you go across the page. You can end up selecting more or less than you wanted to, and you end up moving up or down. Just as a general tip, if you use your arrow key after selecting a range, if you press your left arrow key, that's going to move you to the top left of your selection. If I select the entire range again, and this time I press the right arrow key, that will move me to the right of my selection. So my cursor comes in just after the end of my selection instead. So think about which arrow key you press to get off a selection. You can, of course, just click. Another technique that's really useful is click-shift-click when you want a consecutive range. This saves an awful lot of the scrolling. If you click where you want to start selecting, you can scroll to where you want to finish, pop your shift key down and click where you want to finish, and it will have selected everything between those 2 points. The benefit here is that your starting point is retained. So if you actually meant to get the next paragraph as well, you just pop your shift key down again and click there instead. Pop your shift key down again. You can keep chopping and changing your mind as you choose. As long as the shift key is down when you click, then it will add to that selection. So when you click, then you're off your selection. Click shift click can also work backwards. So if I started at the bottom, scrolled upwards and held my shift key down and clicked at the beginning of another heading, it selected everything between those 2 points. This time, if you pop your shift key down and you click just a bit further down, it will go from the point that you started to wherever you're shift and clicking. Make sure that you've got your shift key down with that. Another technique that's quite useful is a sentence. This is quite useful in emailing as well, that if you want to pick up a sentence because you want to delete it, all of these sentences are obviously the same, but if I hold my control key down and click on any word in a sentence, you'll see that it's picked up that sentence. To be able to pick up another sentence, you need to be back to an insertion point, and then you can control and click on another sentence, and you can pick that up to delete it, move it, whatever it is that you want to do with it. So that's control and click. Okay. Just some techniques on selecting with tables. Okay. If you want to pick up the whole table, when you hover over the table, you'll see this 4-way arrow. Click on the 4-way arrow, that picks up the whole table. If you want to pick up an entire row, come out again into the margin and pick up the entire row. And again, you can click on the row and drag downwards to select multiple rows. If you want to pick up an entire column, get your insertion point, so that eye symbol that the mouse gives you, just over the top line of the table. When it goes over the top line, you get a downward pointing arrow instead, so that lets you select that column. Or if you wanted to, you could select this column with a downward pointing arrow. If you want to select a cell, make sure you've got the black arrow just to the left of the text, and that will select the entire cell. So those are techniques for picking up data to be able to format it or delete it or copy it or whatever you need to do.